you repeat that one more time? Something about gradual changes. Repeat that one more time, because I think that sounds important.
Yeah, it is super important. Darwin said his evolutionary model is that things evolve gradualistically.
Okay.
The fossil record should show gradualism, gradual change over time. The fossil record did not, at the time of Darwin, show gradualism. It showed a lot of species came out of nowhere, right? They just appeared in
There's
the
no connection. There's no connection between just
yeah,
out of nowhere.
Yeah, they just sort of appeared randomly, right? Now this particular find was known in a strata of rock, the Cambrian, right? This particular era of time. So this phrase became quite popular, the Cambrian explosion. The Cambrian explosion. In that strata, you get a lot of these organisms that don't have precursors. Darwin, in chapter 6 of The Origin, he actually writes about this problem because he was honest. I think Darwin was very honest, and he wasn't an atheist. He was someone that for the most of his life believed in God, even after he came up with this theory. And he said, this is a problem for my theory, right? That the fossil record shows this massive expansion of life, explosion of life. However, he said in the future, we are going to find these intermediate fossils, and we're going to find gradualism. And Stephen Jay Gould, 120 something years later, said, nope, Mr. Darwin, there's no gradualism. It's still a problem. And this is why people like Richard Dawkins and others are now not talking about fossils. They want to talk about genes. But so genes and fossils go hand in hand. Yeah.
So just to be clear, the initial problem that Darwin himself acknowledged with his theory of gradual evolution, gradual change, one big thorn in his side, the side of his theory, was that what he observed in the fossil record was not a gradual change, but rather kind of a genesis, kind of a complete, almost like how do I say this? Kind of like the equivalent of like Adam and Eve, almost just a complete appearance out of nowhere of speed. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying that
explosion,
like a complete,
essentially,
like a complete out of nowhere.
It's
just one second.
Sorry, just bear with us. We'll bring someone on in a moment. Carry on, Ramzi.
Like it seems like just so basically, in a nutshell, Darwin realized there's a problem here.
Yeah,
he claimed, you know what, evolution is gradual, but he actually observed that it wasn't gradual. He observed spikes, as you said, spikes, just species appearing out of nowhere. But he kind of had the presupposition of, okay, no, it's okay. We'll fill in the gaps later. We'll find those We'll be able to connect.
Science will get an answer. Hopefully,
yeah.
Later.
And then, lo and behold, here we are, sometime later, and we still haven't done that. And
that's amazing. So in 2023, we're still looking for that answer. Just before you continue, Subboor, sorry, I didn't want to leave. Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll bring Gambe on. Go ahead, Subboor.
Stephen Meyer, he is a philosopher of science who graduated from the same place that Darwin went, Cambridge, right? He wrote a famous book called Darwin's Doubt, right? Darwin's Doubt. And that book is a history of Darwin's doubt, and it shows the chronology of events, including Stephen Jay Gould's involvement, and it's a very interesting book. It showed how Darwin had a doubt about his theory, and he came up with this thing called the artifact hypothesis. Just basically, there are things in the fossil record which are missing, and then he shows, with all the references are there in his book, that actually the fossil record does not support Darwin, and therefore Darwin's doubt was actually real. He actually had a real reason to doubt, and that is a stab in the heart of Darwinism. So if anybody wants more information about that particular issue of the Cambrian explosion, make sure you read Stephen Meyer's excellent book, Darwin's Doubt.
Okay, just one small thing, just to clarify. So when you say there's a spike, these species appear out of nowhere, that means we can't trace where they came from at all. There's no, how do I say this? Like, for example, and maybe because the theory, humans came from apes, and that's, I feel like we're going to get into that later. But for example, they'll find a bird and they have no record of any ancestor to that bird. Is that what you're saying? What he found?
Yeah. But it's not with the bird, but they've found particular organisms and they can't find precursors.
Okay.
Another thing, Ramzi, which is important, even if they found precursors, they can't evolve too fast. They have to evolve slowly.
Right.
Because if they evolve fast, then there might be
they're too close together. They're too close together in the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have them very slowly, change over time. And Darwin was actually asked by one of his contemporaries, T.H. Huxley. He was asked to take out this clause of gradualism because T.H. Huxley felt that Darwin was putting his theory at risk by putting out this falsification of gradualism, and Darwin outright refused to take that out of his book. So this is why I say Darwin was intellectually far more honest than Dawkins and Jerry Coyne and P.Z. Myers and these guys.
So basically, it's not so they either couldn't find a previous ancestor, or they found a supposed previous ancestor, but they were just too close together for Darwin's theory to be used to explain the evolution.
Both of those things did happen, but one thing they definitely didn't find is gradualism.
Okay, interesting. They didn't find the one thing that Darwin actually said.
And it's not one thing; it's the mother of the point.
Right.
It's literally that is his central idea. Evolution works gradualistically, because remember the sheep example I gave.
Yeah.
That's gradualism, right? So Darwin was using that idea.
Okay.
Do you see?